Turn your living room into a joyful, hands-free playroom with CoComelon Sing and Play with JJ. Your child sings, moves, and learns right alongside JJ and friends, all on the big screen. It's designed thoughtfully to spark speech, rhythm, and coordination through songs and active play. Try an ad-free, safe, and interactive way to make screen time part of their learning and growth. Parents love how easy it is, voice-controlled and frustration-free. Kids love every moment of singing, laughing, and playing along. It's fun for them, and it's feel-good for you. Available now in the Volley app on your smart TV. Just search Volley in your TV's app store and start your free trial of CoComelon Sing and Play with JJ today. That's CoComelon Sing and Play with JJ. Available now in the Volley app on your smart TV. Search Volley and start your free trial today.
Volley. Welcome to Homeschooling Outside the Box, the podcast that encourages and equips moms to homeschool an outside-the-box child. Hello, everybody. This is Cindy Renna, and thank you so much for listening. I have got a real treat today because I am interviewing Joseph Hoffman. He is the founder and CEO of Hoffman Academy. He teaches students around the world how to play the piano right from their very own home with his online program and his unique Hoffman Method. He also has students that he teaches as well in his local studio in Portland, Oregon. So say hello, Mr. Hoffman.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I would love to know a little bit more about how you got started with Hoffman Academy. It is such a neat thing, in our day and age that we can just go online and learn to play an instrument. I of course, and you are of the generation where we would actually have to lug a keyboard. I have memories of zipping up my keyboard, in my Casio bag and lugging it into the car. Yep. And then we would drive to the mall and I would take it into the little room and practice. And that's how I learned how to play the piano. So it's a really neat time for us to have these advantages to going online, especially if during the quarantine. So if you're listening to this after COVID, we are right now on week 4 or 5. I don't know. I'm sort of losing days here of the 2020 quarantine, thanks to the coronavirus. So I'm sure now is the time that people are thinking, wow, I've got some extra time. There's that piano I haven't touched in a while. So just go ahead and give us a quick background on you and sort of how you fell in love with music and then how that somehow birthed Hoffman Academy.
Absolutely. I grew up in a home, fortunately, where my mom she was not musically trained herself, but she wanted to take piano lessons herself. When I was about 6 years old, she started lessons, and my older sister and I both were curious about this new thing that mom was doing. And so we started. My first lessons were just directly from my mom, but I loved it enough that she put me with a great teacher in our neighborhood. And, it was never a struggle. I enjoyed it from the start. I wasn't super ambitious. I just thought music was fun. It wasn't until high school that I decided I wanted to pursue music as a career. That's when I started practicing 4 hours a day and really digging deep into it. Got with a great teacher at Southern Methodist University, and he is the pianist for the Dallas Symphony Orchestra, and that teacher really helped move me to a new level and really develop my love for piano and classical music especially. And it was in my master's degree that I started teaching piano myself. I actually had, by that time, I thought that I was going to become a conductor. I was working on a master's degree in conducting, and wanted to go on for a PhD after that. But while I was getting my master's degree, everyone in the neighborhood started asking me to teach their kids piano. And I quickly discovered how much I loved teaching and loved working with kids and loved trying to get them hooked on music for life. Sadly, I saw a lot of kids who were already burnt out after just 1 or 2 years, and they were already begging their parents to quit. And the parents were like, "Oh, well, we'll send them to Joseph Hoffman and see if he could like inspire them because he's young and enthusiastic, and maybe he could do something." And it was surprising to me that I'd get these kids and I would give it my very best, and they came to me already burnt out after, again, just a short amount of time. And so I started really asking, why are kids not enjoying this? And one thing I realized is that we were asking them, when you put a piece of music in front of a kid and ask them to play the notes that they see, we're asking them to decode a very complex language. And music notation is extremely brilliant in how it's constructed, in that it combines both a rhythmic language and a pitch language all in the same notation system. And there's a right-hand part and a left-hand part. And so a student has to decode not just the rhythms, not just the notes, but also for two hands at the same time. And it's a very, there's a heavy cognitive load. And very often a whole lesson would go by and I was like, that kid was just never making music. They were just decoding and punching keys on the piano as best as they could. But I realized that we needed to get kids making music. And so I started researching different methods and dug into the Suzuki method and the Kodai philosophy and some of these ear first methods. And I tried the Suzuki method, and I like the philosophy of what's happening in their pedagogy, but the method was designed for violin, and I felt like there were so many things that didn't transfer very well to piano, and I felt like it didn't teach kids to sight read, which is important. It just needs to be done in the right steps. And so for me, the real breakthrough was with the Kodai method. They teach ear first, but then they use familiar songs to teach staff notation. And so it's not that you're going to wait a long, long time before you learn to sight read. You're going to learn to sight read, but it's always based on music they're already familiar with, as opposed to the traditional method where you open up a book and the student has to decode unfamiliar symbols to play this unfamiliar song. The flip is following the same pathway that you learn your native language. You don't learn to read first. That would not be the most efficient way. The most efficient way to learn a language is you listen, you imitate, and then you learn to read based on the words you're already familiar with.
That makes so much sense when you explain it like that, because it truly is another language. It
absolutely is.
Very complex. Okay, so then all these parents had you reviving their children. And so then they all started loving to play again. You were like, hey, I think I'm kind of gifted with this. And so then at what point did you pivot and decide to go straight to opening your academy? Is that what happened first?
So at first it was me teaching out of it. We were renting a basement apartment, so the kids would come down to our basement place, and eventually I got so full that it was time to expand, and we moved to Portland, Oregon 13 years ago, and again started from scratch, built up a studio in my own living room, and then when that was full, that I couldn't take any more students, we started adding and training other teachers in the Hoffman Method. And it was pretty soon after that we also realized that we could reach an even bigger audience with this method that we saw having such a great success with students by putting it online. And this was 10 years ago when e-learning was still emerging.
Yeah.
But we put a video up on YouTube of me just teaching the first lesson I usually teach a student, which is showing them how to play hot cross buns.
Yes.
And that got a great response. I mean, it has by now over 2 million views, I think, on YouTube. And that first lesson was just recorded, very, very low budget. But it showed me that people wanted this knowledge and they were willing to go online, and it opened up a whole new audience that maybe didn't have access to a quality piano teacher, or maybe couldn't afford it, or it didn't fit in their schedule. But it opened up a whole new pathway to get a great music education.
That is wonderful. Okay, and that's a great segue, because my next question is, why does it matter? So you mentioned cognitive, and I know you can, if you will touch on, I believe there's some research about crossing the midline and how, this is one of the few activities where you can do that and how important that is.
Yes.
And then also just emotionally, cognitively, just on a whole, so what? Who cares?
Yep.
We got a million other things to do. Why do we need to add this piano lesson to our busy homeschool mom list? Or for those who are accidental homeschoolers now, why they're already sort of in over their heads. Sometimes that's how it's feeling. So they're thinking, oh, now I got to do piano lessons. So knowing that I'm fully on your side, and I do think it's a value, if for no other reason than to see the look on your child's face, the first lesson, when they sit down and they learn to play hot cross buns and they walk away and they know a song. I mean, I remember my daughter just going over and doing that after the boys were done with their lesson. She was 3.
Yes.
She just went over and she could play hot cross buns.
Yep.
And it is so sweet and so satisfying for them to, now they've got this little trick in their bag that they can do. So talk to us about why music matters and why it's not just some sort of fluffy extra thing, or elitist thing that we need to actually look at it as a serious part of our education when we're educating the whole child.
Yes. Great question. The brain is uniquely wired for music. It is. So when I read what neurologists are finding when they do brain scans, and they can see what regions of the brain light up and are active when you're doing various tasks. If you're trying to remember something, it lights up one area. When you're doing a physical task, it may light up another area. The thing they've found with music, which is fascinating, is it is very uniquely activating multiple regions simultaneously. And there are very few activities that light up such a complex array of areas of the brain simultaneously. And what that's telling us is that this is a complex skill. It seems to be lighting up areas that involve language. It lights up areas that involve emotion. It lights up areas that are involved with physical movement. All of those things are part of music. And they find that auditory processing in adults who took music lessons as a child is noticeably improved, even if you stop taking music lessons and you're not active currently as a musician, that it makes permanent changes in your auditory processing.
Wow.
Now, all of those benefits aside, I mean, it does great things in the brain, undoubtedly. But even if you took all of that away, I believe that learning to express yourself through music is fundamentally human. It's part of us. I mean, few people, can hear a song with a good beat and not, want to tap their toe. And we also find that in the brain, your brain will synchronize the waves of your brain synchronize to the music and to the beat of the music.
Wow.
And passive listening doesn't give you the same benefits they have found as active playing. And so, yes, you can listen to music that does some nice things to the brain. It's more of a calming effect, although music can also pump you up, I suppose. But when you're actually performing, it's a very different effect on the brain. So I think when I see a child who does music lessons, like you said, they light up with confidence when they succeed. And one of the main goals of my method, again, was to do it in the right order. Don't make them read notes before they can play their first song. We teach hot cross buns just by we sing it. I show them the patterns of high and low, and they play it. And then they own that song. They carry it with them. Parents will tell me they'll be on vacation and there's a piano in the lobby of the hotel. The kids will run to the piano so they can play the
Yep.
songs, which is very different when I used to teach in my early years, and I would get a transfer student who had maybe done 3 years of piano with the traditional method just from books. And I'd say, "Oh, can you play me a song?" And they would hang their head and say, "Oh, I didn't bring my music." I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
anything by heart?" And after 2 years of
Yeah.
piano, they knew nothing by heart, which
Wow.
is really sad to me because that tells me that they haven't put any of the music inside of them.
Right.
If you're learning French and I walk up to you and try to start a conversation with you in French, you say, "Oh, I can't speak in French unless I have my French book with me."
Right.
You're not going to consider that person fluent in French. And I think the same is true for music. We have to have songs that we carry with us. And as a child, that is so empowering when they feel like they own those songs. They can sit down anywhere, anytime, and play them. And then we teach them how to read the notes on top of that great foundation.
Right. And it's such a gift too. I will add this. We did sort of a Rena family variety show
Uh-huh.
last Christmas we've got a few people who help us out on a regular basis with the in-home therapy we do and just some other things. And so we sort of collectively, everybody was able to do something that was sort of a gift,
Mm,
so one could play a few songs on the piano and one did a short reading from a Christmas carol and one sang a
yeah.
song, but just having something, I think, especially as a child, like having something they can contribute to the world, or their little world, I think is so powerful.
Definitely.
Um, and then I read once, and I can't remember where, it was a long time ago, about making sure your teens have some sort of art in their life, like that they can
Mhm.
play an instrument, that they can paint, that they can do something, by their teen years,
Yeah.
because it's so crucial for them to have a healthy outlet. And
A
so I'm
creative
sure,
outlet. Yeah. Humans are
yeah,
meant to create.
yes, absolutely. Okay, so talk to me a little deeper about this because you mentioned about the audio, the processing, the auditory processing. So
Yeah.
let's talk about our what I refer to as our outside the box kids. So
Mhm.
lots of my listeners have children with autism or ADHD or
Mhm.
sensory processing, or they have dyslexia or some sort
Yes.
of issue that they kind of struggle to
Mhm.
overcome. And so I know early on when my son was diagnosed with autism, I went to a conference and they were talking about music therapy. And
Mhm.
so talk to me about how playing can be therapeutic. Does it have to be do you have to be doing a certain thing for it to be considered therapeutic, or does
Mhm.
just learning an instrument kind of count as therapy? Is it going to do the same things, achieve the same things in the brain? Or what are your thoughts on our children who have some outside the box challenges?
Great question. And I, just as a disclaimer, I'm not an expert in uh, autism or the outside the box kids that you're mentioning, but we do have kids that fit that description at our academy, and we have families online with kids on the spectrum, with dyslexia, with ADHD, who have used our program very successfully. And what they report to us is that, let's say, sometimes these kids may have trouble, let's say, making eye contact with an adult who's trying to teach them or work with them, or maybe they're easily distracted, or they like to go at their own pace. One of the great things about an online learning curriculum like ours is that it feels very empowering to these kinds of kids who may feel like some tension or some friction when they're trying to fit into the molds that we try to put them in a classroom or even in a home learning environment. Maybe that feels stressful to them, but when you give them the tablet and they get to control the teacher, they can pause me, they can rewind me, they can make me stop talking if they want to make me stop talking. They have some power, and some autonomy that is very, I think, comforting to them. Mm-hmm. And it allows them to pace it at a pace that's comfortable for them. They generally like learning from a screen, I've found. And so, right there, that gives me an advantage because, I'm a lot cooler when I'm on a screen than with my own life students, And then again, because we're an ear-first method, they don't have to get bogged down with symbols. Again, kids who struggle with dyslexia, sometimes they're slower to pick up English as a written language. And they also are those students that may struggle a little bit with notes on the staff.
Sure. As
well. I've seen that kind of, if you struggle with one, you're likely to struggle with the other as well. And so they need a more gentle approach. And I hate to think that if a kid is not reading notes on the staff fluently, oh, well, sorry, you can't play music,
Right.
It's like saying, oh, you can't speak. Stop speaking until you can, you would never do that to a child, or you would never say, but a spouse would never say to their partner, oh, let's not say the word refrigerator around our child because they can't read that word yet. It's only 3-letter words around Susie. No, we're going to let them hear the full complexity of the language, and we know they're going to pick up reading at their own pace. And so because the method is ear first, these special needs kids can get the pleasure, the pride of making music without bogging them down with so many symbols and so many hoops to jump through. And then the reading aspect can emerge as they're ready to pick that up.
Absolutely. And I do think you mentioned that that's the benefit of doing an online lesson with our kids who struggle with that, because I know half the issue is usually just getting there. So a little favor to throw in, could you please learn to play the violin and begin teaching that? Because also, because I've got one.
To learn cello.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
I have my eye out for, I think at the right time, I would love to find the right violin teacher to help bring this method to violin as well, for sure.
Yes, because I've got one who really wanted to learn to play, but then there was the whole, like, we have to go to the class, and then there's going to be other people there, and he didn't want to stand. So at one point, I mean, we tried so many variations of this lesson. We even arranged it so that we could have like a private one-on-one before the class started. And he asked that the teacher would stand completely on the other side of the room and not look at him. Oh man, I don't know how much is going to be accomplished with this, and it was, when he was done, he was done. He wanted to leave, his tolerance in that environment was about 20 minutes, which is not conducive to learning.
Right. That's
to
hard to
play an instrument with 4 other children, so whereas online, like you said, he can pause, and they're shorter lessons
Take
because
a break.
It's one-on-one.
Right.
Yes. So I can definitely see lots of benefits. And so let me ask this. You don't feel like you're losing anything. What would you say to the parent who thinks, well, it's not, it doesn't count as much, like it's not as efficient or as beneficial to do online versus in person?
In person. I like to think of it this way. I mean, we teach 300 live students here. So we definitely believe in the value of in-person teaching.
Mhm.
But I also absolutely believe in the value of online. I think of them as different, not one better than the other. You've got to choose what's right for your family. And like I said, I have tried to make the online exactly how I would teach a live student. I don't water it down. I don't leave out technique or your finger shape or the theory or the improvising. Everything is there because I want these kids who maybe, like, we have some families who they're in the military and they get redeployed maybe every 6 months, and there's no way you could keep a live teacher this way. They
Sure.
love that they now have the chance to take their teacher with them, because wherever they go, as long as they have internet, they can keep their lessons going. And I don't think that they miss out. Here's the pro of a live teacher, certainly, is that they can give you very personalized attention. And that definitely is a big plus. Now, with the online lessons, of course, there are some big pros with that. The flexibility that we mentioned, the go at your own pace. With a live teacher, if you finish your assignment after 3 days, well, sorry, you got to wait a week before you go back and
Right.
get more. There's no flexibility as far as, like, if you're ready for more, or maybe you need 2 weeks to practice, but sorry, you have one lesson every week. It's
Right.
very, very structured that way. And maybe that's perfect for your family or for a certain family, but the online is so flexible and still delivers the quality that I think most families are looking for. If you want to go become a concert pianist someday, you're definitely going to want a private one-on-one teacher. But
Sure.
the videos I see of our online students, they look as good as most of our in-person students. If you are dedicated and you practice, you can get just as good as if you're going to a live teacher.
Absolutely. Okay, so in terms of the online program, how, and I know because we're using it and we love it, but tell the audience how user friendly it is, or hands off, because I want you to, again, picture the mom listening probably has, like a gaggle of kids at
Yep.
various ages,
Yep.
including toddlers underfoot. Mom knows nothing about music. She's never touched an instrument. And, this piano got handed down from a great aunt or something. So how, do we just hand the tablet and here you go? And it's totally user friendly. How hands off is it for the parent?
That's a great question. And I wish I could say, oh, just hand them the tablet and it will take care.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even with our live in-person lessons, we see a huge difference in progress between the families where a parent is involved and really engaged, and the families where the parent just drops off their kid for the lesson, then picks them up at the end, and we never see the face of the parent. When Especially the younger your kids are, so I'm talking, we recommend usually starting around age 5, 6, 7. In that range, I think, is usually the sweet spot. Sometimes kids can be ready even earlier. Sometimes they're maybe not be ready until a little later. But in general, I think 6 is a great age. Now, when you're 6, you generally aren't going to be very effective at practicing on your own.
Yeah.
And a 6-year-old generally doesn't break down a big task, into like smaller subtasks and things like that. And with our program, so I'll teach a lesson through a video format through our online program. And if you can sit with your child, like, let's say nothing about music, it would be extremely helpful, especially for the younger ones. If you have a teenager or a tween, like 11, 12, 13, hopefully they can be independent enough to almost need no help from you. But if you're talking about a 5, 6, 7-year-old, they're probably going to benefit a lot from you doing a good part of it with them. Maybe you're not sitting with them for every minute they're at the piano, but I would recommend, especially if you don't have a background in music, sit there and learn with them. And maybe some lessons they can do on their own, but then later on ask them to teach you what they learned. and that will reinforce the learning. There also are some practice instructions. We want to add a feature where they can click a button and it will read it to them, but there are some written instructions that for kids who are pre-reading, it would benefit them obviously greatly to either have an older sibling or a parent to help them with any written instructions. That comes in between each video lesson that we have what are called practice sessions, where it just takes them through a checklist of some things to practice. And again, if they're pre-reading, that will be hard to do without a parent or an older sibling. So I recommend being as involved as you can be. I know it's busy to be a parent. We have a blog with lots of articles about how to make practice time fun, how to make it engaging and pleasant. You know, short and sweet, I think, is the key. If you're just starting out, 15 minutes a day is probably plenty, and just gradually grow that over time.
Absolutely. And I would like to encourage moms to learn with them. I mean, why not? You know, if you know nothing about music, this would be a fun thing that you guys could do together. And all the benefits that your child is enjoying, you would enjoy. I know it reignited my love for music when my kids started playing, because it had been years. And it's funny because it really is like a bike. You know, I sat down and looked at my old books and I thought, oh, I can still make some of this out. And, but definitely was so rusty, because that was my initial plan, is I was just going to, teach them what I knew. And then of course it turned out I did not know nearly as much as I thought I did. So you are a much better option for that. But it's a fun thing to kind of learn along with them too. So
definitely. No, we hear such great things when a parent learns with their child. Good things happen. I think it sets a great example, and it's healthy for a child to see an adult in the learner seat.
Yes.
I think it helps them learn to be open about mistakes, and wow, everyone's a learner.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great encouragement. Okay, so you've mentioned it a few times, and I have too, but tell us about this Hoffman Method, because this was one of the things that really drew me to you. Gosh, I don't even know. I was trying to figure out when we had started with you, because it has been a while, and we kind of have gone on and off, not always consistently, in a different child at different times. But I remember reading, seeing your little picture about all 7 or 8 things that you address, and I was really impressed.
Depends on how many you include. Yeah, there
Okay.
are 8. With the method, I've mentioned a lot already, the ear first approach, and that's really modeled after natural language acquisition. On top of that kind of core philosophy of ear first, and then symbols have to follow after it's already familiar. You get them familiar, then you introduce the symbols, so you're tying the unfamiliar thing to a familiar base. On top of that, I really believe in creating lifelong empowered musicians. And what I found when I first started teaching is that most method books are just trying to teach kids how to learn songs on the page. Yeah. And that is just a small sliver of what it is to be a musician. Yes, I want our students to learn to sight read too. And if you go through our curriculum, you'll see a lot of lessons dedicated to sight reading, which is the skill of just sitting down, opening up a book, and playing it from, just by reading the notes on the page. On top of that, to be a true musician, I think there's so much more to it. You need the music theory. You need to understand chords, and you need to be able to play by ear and by sight. You need to be able to improvise. You need to be able to compose. And let's take improvisation, and back to the French analogy I was talking about earlier. Would you consider yourself fluent in French if you could only recite memorized French poetry?
Right.
I would say no. You would only consider yourself fluent if you could have an improvised conversation. I don't know what I'm going to say next. I don't know what you're going to say next, but we're just using vocabulary that exists in our database of our brain, and we're using that vocabulary to make original sentences. And that's the very same way that improvisation in music works. You learn some patterns, And then you just experiment with putting those patterns together in unique ways. And it feels very daunting to some people at first, but to kids who are usually more open than adults are about mistakes, I think if you start improvising very early, we started in lesson number 2.
Yeah.
You get
Hot
them
cross buns.
yeah, with hot cross buns. You play the song and then you mess around. And if you just think of improvising as like kids doodling on a page, or we
Yeah.
don't criticize it. We just say, "Oh, what a beautiful drawing."
Yeah.
What's squiggle over here? Oh, that's mommy. Okay, we're very forgiving. And the same attitude needs to be there with improvising. We're doodling, we're experimenting with sound. And what we're trying to do with that is teach kids from the start that they can create music. We're not just learning songs out of a book, which
Yeah.
again, I found killed the joy when that was all you do. Imagine
Right.
if you're a kid learning a foreign language and all you do is you memorize this script from a page. That's not going to be fun. And so with music, we want them to create, we improvise, we compose, we learn the theory. The theory is so important because that also empowers the students. We give them transposing exercises from the start. Growing up, my piano teacher never mentioned transposing, but we get our kids transposing to different keys.
Okay, now tell us what that means. Just in
Okay.
case.
Right. So, like if you're singing "Happy Birthday to You," I can take those same notes, and I was kind of singing that in a low key, or I could sing it up here. Happy birthday to you.
Okay.
It's the
So
same
moving it.
patterns,
Okay.
but in a different key, and that's called transposing.
Okay.
A lot-
I know the one when you have them print out the notes and
Uh-huh,
they can compose their own song. I mean, they're physically moving these flashcards of notes,
uh-huh,
whatever order, and
uh-huh.
composing their own. That was the neatest um activity. And I mean, I just
Cool.
thought that was the coolest thing. So yeah, that's all really important to show them, look, you can play with music too.
Yes.
Okay, so
You can
transposing.
create. Transposing, right. So basically on the piano, that means like if your finger's on C, D, E, F, G, I can say, okay, play that in the key of D major. So now they have to move their fingers to D, E, F sharp, G, A, and they can take the same song and transpose it. And this is giving them that sense of ownership and mastery and empowerment that again, they can take a song and now they can modulate it. They can take it and do some new things with it, which is exactly what being a musician a creative musician does. A composer, they take patterns that they've seen in the past and they do some new things with them.
Right.
So I would say the Hoffman method is designed to create real empowered musicians who understand and who hopefully love music and creating music for life. That's the end goal.
Awesome. Okay, so but do we cover all 8? Didn't you say
Let's
there were
see.
8 pieces of it? So
Yes,
transposing, composing.
let's see. Transposing, composing. Oh, I didn't mention solfege. I think that's
Yes. And I'm
the
so glad you need to, because I've got a lot of Charlotte Mason listeners. And that was my other draw. I don't know how in the homeschool community lingo you are, but so Charlotte Mason was an educator from like the 1900s, but she encouraged all of her students to learn solfege. And so when I saw that you taught it, I thought, because I mean, that wasn't going to happen otherwise.
It's very rare. I know almost no piano methods that use solfege, but to me, it's really important because it teaches the relationships of the notes. It makes it transpose.
I mean, Sound of Music, like the movie is usually everybody like their only touch point to this idea of solfege.
Right. Solfege is just do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So it's just those patterns. And the cool thing about solfege is, again, it's transposable. You can take those same patterns and put it starting on any key. And so it's called movable do. Do is your home base note. And so students start to recognize these patterns. Like if I sing to a Hoffman Method trained student, ba, ba, they may recognize, oh, that's so do. And we want them to hear and recognize those patterns. And if you don't give those notes a name, it's harder. It basically just puts a label, just like if you never taught kids the name of different colors, there are some cultures that green and blue are the same word, and so they don't differentiate them as much. It almost looks like the same color.
Right.
And so by giving each color a name, we learn to recognize those colors. And by giving each note a name in solfege, we start to learn to recognize those patterns.
How cool. Well, it definitely is a very, very well-rounded program. And I feel like it teaches so many things that honestly I haven't seen or heard of, not to say they don't exist anywhere, but I certainly haven't seen any other online options that are going to give you this well-rounded of a music education.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So now I have to ask a question for
Sure.
my son, Jackson wants to know what your favorite piano piece is.
Oh,
And if you're up for it, if you can play us just a little tiny snippet.
oh, sure. Well, I don't have one favorite piece
I'm sure that's
because
hard.
it really depends on the mood I'm in. I use music as a way, when I'm doing it for my personal enjoyment, it's a way to kind of reflect on the mood I'm in at the time. Or sometimes, if it was a hard day, maybe I want to play like a really tempestuous piece and it kind of gets out the frustration. Or if
Okay.
sometimes I want to play something really peaceful. And I've been finding myself recently drawn to the more peaceful music that I enjoy playing. I think we all need some
Yes.
sanity, some peace. And so my favorite piece to play right now that's really peaceful is a very famous piece called Clair de Lune by Debussy.
Yes.
And yeah, I could play a little bit. It's kind of long,
Please.
but I could play a segment. Let's see.
Oh, that was absolutely wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
That is one of our favorites. So he's going to be thrilled when he finds out that that's what it is.
Oh,
That's
good.
so good. Okay, so parents first hot cross buns and next Claire de Lune. I mean, that's the bookend of the program, right?
Yeah, actually, we're gonna put that in there. I plan to go all the way up to advanced pieces. Right now, the program goes to an intermediate level, but I would love to go all the way to Claire de Lune, and I'm continue to add more lessons all the time.
That is wonderful. Okay, so anything new to announce? Those lessons are not up yet.
They are being edited right now. I just filmed another 5 lessons for Unit 13 just over the last couple of weeks. And so in Unit 13, we're moving forward in Clementi's Sonatina, Opus 36, number 1. So we're releasing the second movement tutorials, and then we'll have the third movement coming out after that. So yeah, those should be coming soon. We hope by the end of this month, we'll have another few lessons up there.
That's fantastic. Okay, and so for us to find you online and to go sign up, I guess just mention that real quick before you go. What are the options? So I'm a mom who was listening, and now I'm totally sold and I want to get my kid hooked up. What are my options? Because there's a free option, right? And then
There
there's
is.
trial. So tell us about that real
Yeah.
quick.
So what I would recommend, go to www.hoffmanacademy.com, and up at the top of that homepage, there's a place you can try premium for free, and you can do a free trial. And right now it's 30 days, and that way you can try the full program. The premium gives you the online learning games. You get access to all the sheet music to download that goes along with the lessons. You get activity pages for learning the music theory. You get audio tracks to play along with and also to listen to get really familiar with the repertoire. And if you try the premium and you're like, we're not quite ready to be a paying premium member, the free level gives you all of the video content. I just wanted all of that to be free forever. And so you can do all the video content. The premium would give you all the printables and the audio and the games. That's the full experience that we recommend. And we've tried to make it really affordable, but the free option works as well. I would say that could work for a more casual learner. Obviously, if you have the worksheets and the sheet music, that's going to give you the full kind of experience that I think most people would be looking for. If you want to be a casual learner, then the free plan is working great for a lot of people too.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Joseph, for being on today and just inspiring us and giving us something to look forward to doing and learning during the quarantine and forever after, even after life goes back to normal, if it ever will. Now we've got this great skill that we can acquire.
It's a really worthwhile skill. I've never heard from anyone who regretted learning piano. It's always the opposite. Oh, I wish I had stuck with it. I wish. And so, yeah, let's give this gift to our kids. I think it's a wonderful gift to have music in the home. So thanks for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming.
Thanks so much for listening to Homeschooling Outside the Box. If you are loving the show, please head over to iTunes and leave a review. This is a great way to help other moms just like you find encouragement in their homeschool with their outside-the-box child as well. For more encouragement, be sure to head to cindyrenna.com and you can check out some great blog posts as well as a shop that will help equip you on your homeschooling journey.